They say that your mind is your greatest weapon. But what if it fires faster than you can control? What if the same brain that helps you create, build, and dream and also burns everything down in its path, right? So, here, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. So, today we have a lovely guest. Please welcome John Frederick O'Shea. So, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely introduction about the brain. And it is a very powerful tool, and it can be your enemy sometimes as well as your champion.
Exactly. And dear listeners, I would love to introduce you with John before we delve deep into the discussion. So, John knows that fire intimately, I'd say. So, after 3 decades of marriage, business highs and the lows, and the chaos of living kind of undiagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, he hit the rock bottom. Alone, jobless, broken, and then he began to write. So out of that breakdown, that breakdown came neuro spicy, a raw and unfiltered memoir that doesn't, uh, I would say, sugarcoat the struggle, but it
No.
redefines. It redefines what it means to live with a fast brain. Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
and like an artist or like anyone that does anything, you write poetry, you write a book, you whatever. It, it's a very soul searching position. But I didn't start off to write the book. I started off to try and explore why I was continually being massively successful and then a massive failure, and why I kept falling into these holes, and but was very comfortable in the hole. It was failure was almost like a comfort blanket to me. It was like,
Yeah.
like, was I not worthy of success, or was it the fact is that I'd spent so much of my life in failure as a young child? And I think that's probably the thing that resonates, is that we don't actually understand how much damage is being done to the younger generation in the education system, because if you're continually getting red marks on your papers, if you're continually getting an E or a D, you're continually failing, you can't read and write properly. It is a very negative environment. School's hard enough as it is, socially it's hard enough, right? But to then be a failure in that environment, to go there every day I think is massively traumatic. And I'm very lucky that I've been able to survive as long as I have. And I'm sure there's millions of people out there in the same situation as I am that really struggle every day.
I totally agree. So, dear listeners, I'll just not take much of your time. I mean, this isn't just a kind of another story about overwhelming or overcoming. Uh, it's all about understanding, right? And it's all about what happens when you stop trying to fix your writing, or I mean, I'm just saying about fixing your wiring, right? So
Yes.
so start learning like how to run with it. So
Yes.
welcome to the show again. Welcome to the show again. Yeah.
Look, and it is, and you obviously have an in-depth knowledge of this topic. The way you're already presenting it is very wholesome and very warm, and I feel very comfortable, not threatened at all that I'm being challenged. And I think the thing is that it is a superpower, without a doubt. And if you look at the top CEOs in the world, the top entrepreneurs in the world, 40% of them are people like myself. But at the same time, is you've got this superpower, which we're never trained how to use the superpower. Okay, there's not one course, not 1 hour, not 1 minute that you actually sit down and go. But you do that in sport, you do that in science, you do that in maths, you do that in English, but no one talks about how you could actually use this superpower. And so then you've got the other side of the superpower, which I call kryptonite,
Mm.
which is its negative connotation. And I'll give you a story just that happened to me this morning.
Sure.
I was given an address 5:10 Wilton Drive in Australia to go and pick up a car because I was helping someone move house. I couldn't find the address. I was in the street. My brain had flipped the numbers around, and I was at number 5 instead of at number 10. And I'm there, and I'm there, and I got so frustrated. And I'm just like, so I went back home, used my car, still got the job done. But that is just something that happens naturally all the time to me.
Yeah.
And it's then how do you deal with it so you don't get frustrated and that you don't make that an aggressive part of the day that then the day is destroyed and go, hey, that's just the way it happens sometimes. But look at all the amazing things that you get achieved. Look at all the amazing stuff that you can do and that you got up and it's a beautiful day and everything else like that. Very, very difficult with people like myself to actually even slow down and to smell the roses. And that's one of the things that I now are very much a champion of, that discipline in the essence of doing healthy food, going to the gym and meditating
Yeah.
are really, really important. And it's almost like a contradiction, the meditation. Well, how can someone with a fast brain be quiet? But it's probably better than anything else I've ever done, is helping me to be a calmer person, just to sit and be quiet. Now your brain's going nuts, but eventually it calms down and you might out of 20 minutes, I might get 2 minutes of quietness.
Yeah.
That is actually a very powerful tool for me.
Exactly. So, I definitely want to ask you one thing. Like, uh, did the diagnosis feel like a kind of relief, or it's just like another level, which is just slapped into the lifetime of misunderstanding? What do you?
It's an interesting thing. I don't believe it was a relief because there was nothing given. It's not like I broken my arm and they'd given me a drug and then they put plaster on it and they were fixing it. All they'd done is just label it. And in fact, it's the wrong label. It's not attention deficit disorder. It's actually information overload. And the reason that you go into this non-attention thing is because there's so much happening. You just go, oh, I can't deal with it anymore. And so you go quiet and you break down and you don't get things done. You get distracted because there's a thousand things happening in your brain. So to start with, it's the wrong name. It should not be called attention deficit disorder because it is nothing to do with that. It is so much information coming in simultaneously, and you've got to grab the right bit of information to take you on the next step of whatever you're trying to do. So that's part of it. So did it help? I guess to a degree it helped, but it wasn't any answer. And that's why I've sort of written the book, is because I really wanted to understand myself. And also the people that are testing you and giving you a lot of advice aren't ADHD or dyslexic. They're actually scholars. They're the ones that have actually survived in the system. It's almost like, do you really understand how crazy this brain can be sometimes?
Exactly. And that's heavy. I mean, to find out so late that the storm had a name, and it's like, uh, I'd say, realizing the chaos wasn't your character, but it's the chemistry. So,
But yeah, and it is the chemistry, and it's a fantastic chemistry, but it's also frustrating because, like I said, I got to this address, I couldn't find the house, I had to go home, and that happens to me all the time.
yeah,
Like I go to the shop, I get distracted, I'll go there to buy chips. I won't come home with chips. I'll come home with something else, and then when I get into the door, I go, "Oh, that's why I went there."
yeah,
And it's that on 1,000 layers in your everyday life, and that can become very frustrating. One of the things that I think is really important in the message is not only the message to people like myself, but really the message to the people that are surrounding us, our partners, husbands, wives, children, those people at work, to really understand that you are frustrating the hell out of these people.
yeah,
Right? You are not being logical. You are on a roller coaster,
Mm.
and not meaning up and down as in mood, but you're up and down in regards to decision making and processing. So one minute they're going, oh my God, he's a genius. Next minute go, what is he talking about? And so there's a very much, the supporters around us get tired. They get exhausted because they're only seeing it from an external. Imagine what it's like inside. So I think that's part of the message as well. And then for the younger generation, like the parents that have got kids that are struggling with this neurodiversity, like that is the hardest part to be a parent. All you want is the best for your child.
Yep.
You don't necessarily want them to be the genius. You don't necessarily want them to be at the bottom of the class. You want them to be healthy and normal. And when you've got this child that's struggling every day to be able to learn the ABC or to be able to count or to be able to read, and one day they can spell the word, the next day they can't, it's very, very traumatic. Yet we're not talking about, oh yeah, but by the way, do you know that NASA employs 50% of their employees are dyslexic? Do you know that the CEOs of the world are dyslexic and ADD, they're geniuses? So no one's taught. So there's no beacon for us, all those parents, to drive to and say, hang on, he doesn't have to be an architect or an engineer or a doctor or even a teacher, which I respect all of those, or a nurse. He could be an entrepreneur. But where are we teaching them the skills of being that entrepreneur? Where are we teaching their skills to delve into this great brain that we have, which is really limited and stifled by sitting in a classroom? So we've still got a long way to go.
Yep. Exactly. And one more thing is like, you described that sitting in that borrowed car, tears blurring your vision, no home, no job, no wife. So, I mean, in that situation, most people would shut down. But why did you pick up a pen instead?
The pen sort of came a little bit after that, probably about a month after it, and I was very depressed and very feeling sorry for myself, and I just wanted the world to end and all that sort of stuff. And I guess there's two syndromes. There's the fight and flight syndrome. And so I was either going to fight and and kick the world back as it kicked me, or I was going to turn into, meek and mild person and carry on and just be normal and just, not tell anyone about it and be very quiet. I did spend almost a year on my own just studying the effects of what I was doing and researching myself and researching the whole thing. I did a lot of reading, or I got the audio books and I would listen to those, and I started just improving my life. So all the things that I looked at, and I said, okay, you smoke. So I smoked a lot of marijuana, which was like self-medication, right? Because I was self-medicating because I just wanted to be quiet, or drinking too much. Um, you know, all of that I stopped. I stopped coffee, sugar, all intakes of drugs, alcohol, all in one day, the whole lot. But I didn't get one side effect. It was insane. Like, why didn't I get a side effect? Because I didn't really need them. And my body basically just said, well, or my brain told my body, you don't need it. So I had no side effects whatsoever. So it was a very interesting time in my life. It was the hardest time and the saddest time, but it was also probably the best. And I've become so much of a better person. I'm more in touch with myself, in touch with my friends, in touch with my family. I take time. I'm calmer. I'm not in a rush to do everything all the time and to be this person that I thought I wanted to be. And so, and sometimes you need to be kicked in the ass. You need to be really put, the gun at your head and go, well, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to go and fix it, or are you going to feel sorry for yourself? And so that's what I did. It was not easy though. Don't think it was just turning a switch. It was a very, very difficult time, and extremely difficult. And I've done some very difficult things. I've lived with the Aboriginals. I've been a nurse. I've climbed some of the highest mountains. I've been a rock climbing and skiing instructor. I've done some really amazing things, This was the hardest because I had to do it with myself. And it was, and your brain and your body and everyone's fighting you. Go, no, no, take the easy road. Go sit on the couch. You'll be right. So it's hard, but it was
Yeah.
worth it. And still every day I have to concentrate to do the things. And it's not a motivation. I don't believe in motivation. I believe in discipline. I have to go and do these things. Rain, hail, sunshine. I have to do these basic things. Make my bed, put my dishes away, go to the gym, do some meditation. And I probably only meditate 4 or 5 times a week, and maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. But it's all that I know. I feel it when I haven't done it for like 3 days.
Yeah,
And I go, oh, you haven't been disciplined. Go and do it.
exactly. And one more thing is like you tell that story about snapping a customs officer in Hawaii and pure rage emotion boiling over. So
Not a good place to snap, I can tell you.
exactly. So do you think that the anger became your armor against the shame, or
I think the anger was part of my being able to keep pushing through. Otherwise, I would have been a very meek, being told. And the thing is about that story is what had actually happened was I was already successful at 24, 25. I
okay.
owned a house and I was skiing in Canada and I was coming back to Hawaii and all self-funded. And I was coming back to Hawaii and I wanted to surf in Hawaii. I wanted, it was one of my, wish lists.
Yeah.
And when I filled in the customs form to understand how bad I was, I filled in the French side. So it was the French side of the customs form. That's how bad my English is
Okay.
at that time. And when I went to the guy, he said, "No, you can't do this. Just go back and come back and see me, and I'll help you. And I'll help you." Well, he had obviously a change or what have you, so he wasn't there any longer. And a new lady was there, and she'd obviously had a bad day. Obviously, the kids weren't doing what they was doing. The husband, whatever was happening to her, was a bad day. But unfortunately, it got a lot worse when she met me. And when she handed back the card, she said, "My 4-year-old son could fill this in better than you." And I just exploded. How dare you could say that to me? That's not fair. But I didn't say it in I said it in words that I can't say here now. And there was guns drawn and, I got locked up and that was another turning point. I had to go, okay, so I had to learn the basics of reading and writing. I got some help and we started off with, 100 words that I'd learn and I'd learned them not through any of the traditional, it was just pictures. So phone, not PHONE, not that. It was look at the phone box, visualize the word, and that's how you, and then just visualize it and write the word. Don't worry about what it sounds like, whatever. So there was no sounds, there's no phonics, there was no rules. It was just a picture. And that's how I learned to read and write, just with pictures. So I have a visualization, and I can do that with telephone numbers and everything. I just visualize the number. I don't remember it. It's just like a picture.
Yeah.
So that's one way of learning, and others have other different ways of doing the same sort of thing. So yeah, that was a interesting time in my life, and yeah, I wish I hadn't have done it, but at the same time, as it did spur me on to do, to correct something
Yeah.
which was broken at that particular time. Yeah, I had what at that stage 16 years in the education system and still couldn't fill in an immigration card. So I don't know who's at fault there. Is it the education system or me?
Ah, I mean, that's such a raw truth. I mean, anger often hides the heartbreak, but especially for men who have been told the emotions are weakness, not the wounds, right? So definitely, yeah. And about the failure, right? So you wrote about the failure, that failure became a comfort blanket. So why
Yep.
do you think, like, people with ADHD or dyslexia sometimes find safety in failure instead of the success?
Yeah, no, I think that's very true, and I think that from a young age, you get very, very familiar with it.
Mm.
You get familiar with the red marks on the page of your report. You get familiar with the fact is that you're not going to pass. You're familiar with your friends picking on you and calling you names. You're in the bottom class. You become very comfortable with that space. And it's like being, if you spend 30 years in jail, what do they say? That you become indoctrinated into that space and you feel uncomfortable when you come out of jail. Well, I think that's the same with people like myself, that if you've continually every day, it's not like you don't get a day off. There's no day off at school. You might get a little reprieve where instead of you getting an E, you might get a D. And the one I hated worst was a D plus. It means you're stupid, but you're trying. It was just like, how could you offend me anymore? So, and that becomes a very familiar thing. So if all the time you're getting this experience, and I think that's dangerous. I think that you've got to break that cycle. You've got to not accept failure anymore. You've got to say, no, and what are we actually failing? We're failing in a system that's actually failing us. So the system is only designed for around about 60% of the community. Exactly. It's only 60% of the community that actually goes on to university and does those things. The rest of us aren't in that mindset. We don't operate the same way. We don't think the same way. I could be an amazing musician or an artist or a builder or whatever it is. I'm not going to university for those sorts of things necessarily. From school, I'm going there because of passion and the arts and so forth. With people like with me, the ADHD or dyslexic, that's not even a thought process.
Exactly.
And so, yet they're all the entrepreneurs. They're all the ones designing the latest phones, the AI, the cryptos. That there's a whole proof of data out there that says, "Hang on, you guys have got an amazing skill set, and we want to tap into it." And we want you to be employed with us. So it's an interesting, I think we're a long way away from helping. And one of the things that I want to try and do is design a educational program for lateral thinking.
Yeah.
For empowering and saying, okay, what about thinking of it like this? And,
Exactly.
you look at every industry that we've gone through. It changes. The movie industry. Look at Pulp Fiction when it first came out. He did the end of the story, the start, and it was all over the shop. And it had no rhythm to it whatsoever. That's pretty much a dyslexic and ADHD sort of brain, the way we operate. And yet it was an amazing film. But some people found it very difficult because it wasn't following the script. It wasn't a normal path of the way a movie normally rolls out. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think a lot of guys feeling that. I mean, listening, they're feeling that. And success feels dangerous when your brain's wired for the crisis. So that is very, very true, I'd say. So,
It
and
is.
yeah, and today, if you have to give one advice for the listeners, so then what will you give to them?
I would say study it as much as you possibly can. Bury yourself in books, podcasts. But the thing that I really think is key is just write out the things that you would like to improve in your life. Okay. It doesn't have to be a long list. It doesn't have to be a long list. And then get that done and make it part of your daily routine. And then you have to think about it. So if you think about it, you can get dressed, you can brush your teeth, you can go to work, you can catch a bus, you can drive a car, you can do all these amazing things, but then there's all this noise that's coming. Just keep adding those things to your list. So, if it's what I really like to do, I'd like to go on a holiday. Well, what am I going to do to get to that point? And then just really, really invest in that process. And so what I do is I invested in eating properly, staying healthy, meditating,
Yeah.
being a good person, being present was a really big thing for me, because I could sit there and have a conversation with someone and go, I'm bored, and just walk off and just go, I'm not interested anymore. and being
Mm.
present was a big thing that I had to come over. But that took me almost, I reckon it took me about 18 months
Yeah.
to actually get to keep going. Well, why didn't you stay focused on that conversation? Why didn't you
Right.
listen to what was being said? Like, I'm sitting there listening to them, but I'm actually not listening to them. I'm thinking about something else. So that was some of the things. So being present. But the biggest thing is it is a superpower.
Mm.
It is without a doubt a superpower, but it's also kryptonite.
Correct.
So you have to control that. And that is really, really important, that you have this thing that you know is super powerful, but at the same time it will also absolutely destroy you
Mm.
in whatever it is. So today, for an example, doing the car, I was doing the right thing when I was helping a friend. I went to the address, got it wrong. That could have been my kryptonite. I could have lost my temper, got frustrated, gone down to, oh, bloody hell, the world's shit and da da da. That's the kryptonite. And so that's that balancing act. You got to be really careful of how you balance it, because when you go into the hole, it's a nasty hole. You come back out, but you don't come out as well as you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's really amazing, I'd say. And so here, different character, love to say. I mean, dear listeners, like John didn't just write a book. He actually cracked open a code that so many live with silently. I mean,
Yes.
ADHD and dyslexia don't define you. They design you. The trick is learning how to drive the machine without crashing it, right? So,
Very good. Very good summary of it. And I've got a code for you, for your listeners. Would you like a code on wisdom discount? So the book's come out. It's neurospicy. My son, actually, I described to him what my brain felt like. It's like,
okay.
when you pull the jigsaw out onto the table when you first see it and you go, oh my God.
Mhm.
And I described it to him. So he painted my head like
Okay.
it was spilling onto the table with the jigsaw pieces. So that's what he decided to do. Um, so the code is ABC, which I'll keep it really easy, 25.
Mm.
So the year 25. So very simple. It's a 15% discount. Please have your members come in there. And then there's also the next thing we're doing is on my website is that I want to have other people's stories. And the next book I'm going to publish is going to be everyone else's stories. And I'm going to publish it. I'm going to pay for it. And then whoever's stories are in there, they're going to get the royalties from those stories, from that book.
Wow.
So that's going to be my next thing. And so it's on there now. So it's available. So yeah. And look,
Amazing.
I really appreciate your understanding of this space, and you make me feel very comfortable. And I hope someday we can come back and revisit this.
Definitely, anytime. And there is another, I would say, I mean, if you are listening, you have, I mean, and you have ever felt like your brain runs on the chaos, then maybe it's not broken. Maybe
No.
it's just the neurospicy. So check out the book. I'll put all the details in the code, everything that is shown us for your easy reference. It's raw, it's honest, and I mean, it will definitely make you rethink like what it means to live differently. So, with this hope, dear listeners, this is your host Avik, and this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, reminding you that every flaw is just untamed genius waiting for the directions. Right. So stay curious, stay kind, and keep leading with your mind and your heart. So, thank you so much.